Hey, I'm Tyler, Mr. Trees Trimble. We're going to be talking about this Eva's Pride peach here that's waking up. It's beautiful. Pink flowers. Every single one of these flowers has potential to become a peach. And if you know how big a peach should be or could be, that's way too many peaches for this tree to handle. So we're here starting at the end of February. It's opening up bloom. It's an early season peach. Even though it's in bloom right now, we can still do some pruning on it. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's better than allowing it to do what it wants to do and still fanning those bad habits. So best thing we can do is kind of bring this sucker down. But what I wanted to talk about was peaches and nectarines fruit only on last year's growth. So whatever stuff grew out last year will be this green, budded, reddish color. This is your productivity wood. And that's all we really care about other than structure with peaches and nectarines. And they also put on way too much fruit wood. And they always do way too good of a job, which is, you know, it can be hurtful for them. So we got to prune them extra hard. And once the fruit actually sets from what we've left, we've actually got to thin that fruit even more to make sure that we don't, you know, break any branches and hurt the tree too much. But like I said, don't be afraid to prune your tree, even if it's woken up a little early. Some of those early season ones, they're early. Everybody else is still sleeping and they're waking up, but it's not the end of the world. You can still prune and do winter care as you normally would. But try to get to these early ones if you notice that these wake up earlier than the rest. We need to assess a height that we can easily access first and foremost, because it does no good to have a bunch of fruit you can't get to. And then once we've assessed that, then we can go ahead and decide who's staying and who's going. This little, you know, 8-foot tall peach tree wants to put on 3,000 peaches. It's crazy. It's exactly why everybody needs to plant these in their yard. Okay, so we're getting somewhere now. We got this down to a pretty accessible level. Now it's broken branches, warped branches, dead branches, branches that are growing into the center of the tree, kind of way too cluttered. Now the cool thing about learning about your trees and learning where they fruit and how they fruit is things like this down here and this and all these little points. Peaches are going to form here. So if you want to keep them here, you can keep them there. It's a part of the artistic interpretation. If there's a slight bad habit or something that's kind of just out of place and you know it's going to give you fruit because you know what age wood it is and what's going to happen, but if you cut it off, you're going to lose out on a lot. As long as you know the rules, you can break them. You can go back later and prune it up, let it work for you, I always say, and then go back and address it. So don't be afraid to leave a couple things if you think that, hey, that's a lot of fruit that it's going to give me in a nice place, and or I'm not going to get a bunch of fruit. Let's keep what we can, even if it is kind of in a bad place. But with peaches and nectarines, don't worry too much about it. They're going to give you enough fruit if they're growing. So in the end, we are left with a lot less. But what we're left with will be magical. You know, sometimes the best tip I can give is not, you know, how much do you prune? It's kind of just knowing when to stop is the best thing you can learn. Just stop. If you're wondering if you should stop, just stop. Come back later. But at the end, we should be able to reach this up, find pretty much all that fruit within reason, and we have a couple of good structure branches that are occupying its own little location in the tree, with the exception of this little area right here. These two are kind of occupying the same space in this tree. Now that goes back to that artistic interpretation. I'm going to let this or this both work for me this season, and then at the end of the year or summertime, I'll decide which one of those is going to go. but they're both really nice and loaded, and they're in a good pickable spot, and you know, that's a good chunk of that tree, so we'll let them work for us. It's not hurting anything. It looks really nice, and we'll address it later after she's done her job. But don't be afraid to prune peaches and nectarines. They need it. Definitely need it. Also, always try to prune and spray on the same day. Use a good dormant spray. There's an organic copper soap, there's sulfurs, there's a variety of different dormant sprays you can use, but definitely try to prune and spray on the same day. Help sterilize the wounds and protect them for the rest of their sleep. Thanks a lot.